Hello, this is Kris Nelson from evolveconsciousness.org. I'll be reading an article published on the 17th of October, 2014. It is called Mind and Heart, Left and Right Brain, and it deals with left and right brain balance and also some other things. The first section is false dichotomy, mind versus heart, or quote mind versus quote heart. The next one is quote, heart is true care with mind within consciousness. Phrases and definitions, left and right brain balance, and examples of New Age conceptions drugging consciousness with metaphysical spells. False dichotomy, quote, mind versus quote, heart. A huge problem in some conceptions, primarily found in those of right brain dominant imbalance, is that of the constant divide between what is referred to as the quote heart versus quote brain, or quote heart versus quote mind. The heart is the most powerful muscle in the body. The heart has a more powerful electromagnetic field. Okay, and this means the heart organ is better and more important than the brain organ? Some conclude yes, and choose to focus on the quote heart conception, emotion, and feeling, not much on the development of thinking, and also on altered forms of, quote, meditation and silencing the mind. That's what seems to be the focus of these right brain imbalanced people. It's the same for left brain dominant believers who posit that the brain, or their conception of, quote, mind, as being above the emotional capacities of care and compassion of the alleged, quote, heart domain. Do people not realize these terms are symbolic references to aspects of one consciousness? You have some people say, the heart is better, the brain is better, others say, emotions and feeling are better, thinking and mind are better. Why all of this false division? It is for mind control purposes to confuse and obfuscate the accurate correspondence between reality and its representation through language symbols. We are talking about one dynamic, consciousness, and its component peace attributes, thought and emotion, but confusing them with organs called the brain and heart. As a result of using the same words for both organs and aspects of consciousness, people are confused about what they are even talking about. The brain is not the mind and thinking. The heart is not emotions and other capacities. The, quote, brain is an incorrect euphemism for, quote, mind, and, quote, heart is an incorrect euphemism for, quote, emotions, with both, quote, mind/thinking and, quote, emotions/feeling as part of the one consciousness, two parts of one whole. So stop falling for the dichotomy of it's brain versus heart or heart versus mind. It's actually mind and thinking coupled with heart and emotion feeling. And that's consciousness that we got to unite. That's a legitimate form of balance and harmonizing two aspects that people want to remain divided and using because they believe in bullshit. Just like the New Ager I used to live with. He was completely right brain. Oh, logic is limited. Language is flawed. That's because you're a moron who doesn't know how to use them. So maybe if you took some time to learn that and how to use language properly, maybe you wouldn't have such a negative view of language, and you wouldn't be manipulated by language and mind controlled by language into viewing language as limited and logic as flawed and all these things. We are the ones in delusions of imbalance who try to play the, quote, heart against the, quote, mind and feeling against thinking in false conceptual frameworks, incorrect understandings of dualities. The devil of opposition, Shaitan, is inside of us in this case, preventing us from seeing reality correctly. That's right. All the right brain imbalanced people and all the left brain imbalanced people who want to say, oh, it's only about feelings in the heart, and then the other ones, oh, it's only about the mind and thinking. Well, you're both morons. New Agers and pseudo-spiritualists are all for the so-called, quote, heart. Heart this and heart that, and downplay the importance of the mind or, quote, brain in their conception They don't like the, quote, head much. Do you know that when you remove your heart and put in a mechanical one, you still live and exist and have consciousness? You can be shot in the heart and live for a few seconds conscious. If you are shot in the head brain, it terminates your conscious experience. Well, then maybe your physical heart isn't the super great magical wonder fest you believe it to be, despite the energy flow, power, and output it has as an organ. Pumping your blood, pumping your life force, big electromagnetic field, yeah, so what? Let's look at reality. Shoot someone in the heart, they can still live for a little bit. Shoot someone in the head and they're instantly dead. Consciousness is gone. So where does consciousness reside? Clearly it comes in through the brain, and then there's expressions of consciousness through thoughts, emotions, and actions. But to claim that, oh yes, the heart is the super great magical wonder fest, I'm just making fun of New Agers because it's fucking ridiculous. You can't live without many organs, heart, brain, lungs, etc. But you don't see me saying the brain is the most important, then comes the heart after. Both of the organs are important in life, and both the consciousness attributes of thought and emotion are important. I don't play the heart and mind as separate game, and that includes the heart versus brain false organ equivocation concept. Heart and mind are both aspects of consciousness with words used to describe them. Mind is not the physical brain. Heart is not the physical heart. The mind and heart, which is being referred to in metaphysical conceptions, are actually in consciousness and are not separate things themselves outside of consciousness, battling out for rulership. This is the confusion implied when people associate the mind and emotive capacities with the brain and heart organs themselves. Language matters. That's why you have New Agers who are idiots and believe whatever the hell they want. It makes them feel good because they don't understand language, because language is flawed and limited for them. Morons. Uniting the heart and mind is like uniting the left and right brain, as both sets represent overlapping dualistic aspects of consciousness. You don't live in the heart organ, just like you don't live in the brain organ. These are false terms to refer to something else, and they only confuse the ability to understand reality clearly through the automatic conclusions we make about the sources of the symbolic heart and mind. There are left and right brain imbalances, and these are linked to the mind and heart, or thinking and feeling imbalances. It's all symbolic, but people start to take it literally and get confused with a lack of proper logical application to their conceptions or the grammar used to define them. For many who are stuck in the left brain dominant imbalances, they are all about neurology and the brain itself as having the answers for the source of consciousness, which they associate and connect to thinking and reasoning as most important. For many people stuck in right brain imbalances, they are all about the heart itself as having the answers for consciousness, which they often associate and connect to emotions and feelings as most important. Do these two groups of people not understand they are just playing the same false dichotomous game? All the New Age garbage is all about their conception of heart over their conception of mind, and they love playing this game to justify their imbalanced state of consciousness and being. Yeah, I know it. I lived with a New Ager. So, oh mind, oh thought. Oh, you're too much in your the mind and the thought. Oh, thoughts are bad. You gotta feeling. You gotta use feeling. Language and logic. Oh, that's flawed. They use whatever beliefs they want to justify their current condition. So they don't know how to use logic. They don't know how to use language. They don't know how to think properly. So they're going to devalue those aspects in favor of the feel-good aspects that they want to be true. The next section, heart is true care with mind within consciousness. Heart in its spiritual symbolic definition is best represented as true care. It is the symbol for reaching the real self, the center of being, the living in authentic, realized, actualized, examined, true self in harmony and alignment with truth and morality. You cannot be pure-hearted, just like you cannot be pure truth or pure morality, Pure-hearted would only mean that you strive to be pure in heart, better, and do less wrong, not that you can actually be pure in heart. We can never be pure, perfect anything, but we can purify and refine ourselves to that likeness, to that perfected ideal. So pure-hearted, perfect in heart, is only the general true care, desire, and will to do what is right, good, and true at all times. If you do wrong and don't want to change, then you are not living in the spirit of being pure-hearted, since you lack true care to align with truth and morality as you discover it in greater depths. The heart is viewed as the foundation of man's deeds, the driving motivational source of desire and willpower. The true care, quote, heart will help to generate a proper evolution in consciousness. Anything we care for is what drives us to seek and have it, accomplish a task, etc. The symbolic scales of Ma'at are weighing the heart as representative of our negative, harmful deeds, which are our actions. It's not about heart versus mind, left brain versus right brain, one over the other, etc. So many people want to play this infantile game. It is actually about what capacities in consciousness there are, and if you are using them or not, and to what degree you are using them, etc. Care, intuition, intellect, thought, feeling are all a part of ourselves, and it involves our body, our brain, our heart, our gut, and maybe other smaller brains throughout the body. The point is, it's a package deal. You can have imbalances, overuse, underuse, polarized extreme use, etc., but it's all a part of you as you currently are, and it can change. It's not the brain versus heart or mind versus heart. It's all of them together in symbolic reference to particular organs we believe are the source. Who knows what, if any, capacity of consciousness is coming from which organ? I say all aspects of consciousness do not come through any organ, but manifest expressions through them into the physical world at best. Does this knowledge of the source from the organs matter, ultimately, for us to learn about using aspects of consciousness, developing them, harnessing them, or mastering them? So do we need to know the source from the organs, or say, well, this comes from this organ and this comes from that organ, so consciousness comes from the heart, consciousness comes from the heart, or consciousness comes from the mind, or it comes from the stomach. You don't know where it comes from, but we can see that it really, if you shut down organs, you can see that the first one it comes in through is the brain, though. So that's pretty clear. It should be clear to everybody. But I'm still not going to say, oh, the brain is the most important. It's a damn important organ. It's very important. But the aspects of consciousness that we need to develop are what's more important to understand, not the physiology of our bodies that allege to be the source for aspects of consciousness. No, it doesn't matter as much as actually using them and developing them. If anything, the brain is the receiver of consciousness to have an experience, and the heart is something symbolic of the activator generator of our experience. We can activate good or bad, right or wrong, hence desires and care. The generation is the central core of something, and the actual heart organ is at the center of the body. Again, a correlation is made between the center of man's body and the center of man's being, or spirit of man, and the euphemisms ensue about how the heart of consciousness is actually the heart organ itself. This creates confusion about accurate representations of reality. So people use things in reality that exist, a heart organ, and then they create symbolic references and allegories. So the center of man's being, the center of man's core, the center of our spirit, the spirit of man, oh, that's the heart. Well, that's because the heart is actually in the center of the body, so as a symbolic reference, it's very useful to represent something in the center, something in the core of the onion, so to say. So the spirit of man, the center of man's being, different things you can represent as heart. So heart of man, heart, mind is all the center of being. Heart of man does not refer to the physical heart, nor does the mind refer to the physical brain. These are metaphysical aspects. You cannot touch mind or care. It's something metaphysical. It's behind what is physical, and it can drive the physical. That's cause and effect. Cause is the metaphysical, and the effect is the physical. When the false association is made with a literal heart, and as a result of other correspondences people make between the literal heart and emotions, then the feelings and emotions are interpreted as the ultimate path and way to learn from the heart, center of being, not the mind or thinking, but feeling your way through information as being more important. Also, the center aspect gets muddled with middle way ideologies of the gray and black sorcerer manipulator mindset that muddles truth, morality, good and evil, right and wrong. The heart and mind unite to evolve consciousness. So you can't use feelings to discern the truth. You get a feeling as an indicator of something wrong or something right. But even then, your feelings can be manipulated, and you can feel something wrong, but it's right, and you can feel something right, but it's wrong, because you're mind controlled into accepting right as wrong, wrong as right, good as evil, evil as good, truth as falsity, falsity as truth. Because emotions do not work by themselves. It is a feedback between thought. All emotions go through thought. Or else you wouldn't be able to categorize them as an emotion, because you wouldn't have your thinking mind in play to say, oh, that's love, or that's fear, oh, that's pain, or whatever, pleasure. You wouldn't be able to discern anything if you don't have thought in play. So there's a definite feedback between what you experience in reality and how you feel it. It goes through the mind, input into the mind, then the brain comes in, and you have the neocortex and the limbic brain and the hindbrain and the R complex, and these interplay in the sensory input from reality, and you get affected by reality, and the affection triggers physiological reactions and feelings that we recognize as emotions and categorize them as such. Alright, next section. Phrases and definitions. Here are some phrases with the heart used in it and what they symbolize to represent in meaning. Heart of tree, the core. Heart of subject, the center, core, important, essential, nature, matter, mater. The heart of darkness, inner depths, deepest part. The heart of man, man's heart, is the center of being. The spirit, not the physical heart, which is the confusion people get into. The spirit of man and heart of man is the quintessence, the true self, in true care, striving for truth and morality. The spirit in which we do things is the care, desire, motivation, etc. Similarly, as the body is not the you, yourself of consciousness, the brain and heart are not the you either. They are not the mind or emotions of consciousness, though the mind and emotions may work through our physical components of brain and heart. Again, metaphysical works through physical, cause to effect. Metaphysical consciousness expresses through physical components. Brain chemistry, heart chemistry. It's not that the consciousness aspects are actually there. Heart is also related to courage. Courage comes from Latin cor, which is heart. Cor comes from heart, core. So we have heart, breast, soul, spirit, will, desire, courage, mind, intellect. Oh, imagine that. Heart. Look at that. Breast, soul, spirit. Why? Because it's at the center of our being, right? Soul, spirit. It's in the core. Will and desire. Ah, look at that. Yeah, the will and desire. The desire, the care, the heart. And that leads to generating the will to act. And the courage, you have to have strength to get to the will to act. You need to develop the courage to do something. Oh, and look at that at the end, the last two words, mind and intellect. Well, imagine that, the heart equated with mind and intellect. Doesn't that show you that we're actually talking about consciousness and we're not talking about a physical heart? As the core of our being, soul, spirit, isn't the heart. The heart, as a physical organ, is a symbolic representation for aspects of consciousness, period, end, finale. That's it, that's all. Thank you, let's move on. The heart and mind are similarly spoken of in the Bible. Why look at the Bible? It contains words that go back thousands of years, allegedly, so we can see what the words mean in certain parts of the world, at certain times. Heart and mind are about consciousness. The heart and mind are parts of consciousness and can be likened to the left brain and right brain qualities and of neocortex and limbic brain qualities. They are parts that need to be united. They are parts of one whole that need to work together for harmony. Are emotions and feelings in the heart? Is the mind and thought in the brain? There are words of the physical matter, heart and brain, and there are symbolic descriptors of modalities within consciousness expression, quote heart and quote mind. So in Hebrew you have the word leb, which is Strong's Concordance H3820. Well, I won't say that anymore. Anyways, it means inner man, mind, will, heart. And you have you have words here: heart, feelings, will, intellect, center, care, mind, understanding. So again, heart, mind, will, inner man, the core of our being, the spirit, the soul. Say so. Once you understand what I'm talking about in my work about truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law, true self, higher will, then you can understand that soul and spirit are misnomers. They are words that misrepresent who we are. The soul is merely the individuation of consciousness as we are here as an ego personality identity construct. The soul is the energy force that allows us to exist. Without the energy force of consciousness, well, we would just be a body husk, wouldn't we? And there probably wouldn't be any animation to the organic body husk, and then it would probably not be animated and it would just die right away. And there probably is consciousness required to animate the body in order to get the energy current, the electricity flowing in order for the organism to maintain homeostasis, equilibrium, and perpetuate into the future. Without the consciousness, it's theorized conceptually, well, then you wouldn't have the body. It wouldn't last, because there would be nothing to keep it lasting. So again, you see, leb, inner man, mind, will, heart. Heart isn't the physical heart. Mind isn't the physical brain. We're talking about aspects of consciousness that can interrelate. So it is used as mind and heart in the Bible, the inner man within the body, the real us, i.e., the true self. That's what the spirit is. The soul is the true self. Okay? Like if you go through all my work, it'll really start to make sense on how everyone is being deceived about these spirit hierarchies and soul groups and all this bullshit, new age, channeled information from deceptive entities who want to manipulate human consciousness. They're feeding you bullshit. I have derived this understanding myself by looking at things in the physical and piercing through to the metaphysical, but it's always related to the physical. Other people want to believe, oh, well, you reincarnate. Oh, yeah, well, when you die, you don't die. And then when you, oh, yeah, well, even if you kill me, I'm going to come back. No, you are not coming back. Get it through your head. And you say, oh, some people say, well, we have a limited time and we're only here for a limited time, and then from birth to death. Yeah, exactly. And then they'll say in another breath, at another time, oh, well, if you kill me, I'll be back. No, you won't. You just admitted how you have a limited time on this earth and you only have from birth to death to do your work. And then you're going to say, oh, well, if they kill me, well, I'll be back. I'll be back stronger and I'll fight some more. No, you aren't coming back. You're going to be dead. Get it? You don't come back. The true self is everybody. We are all the true self at the source. As the inner man, the spirit of man, the heart of man, the quintessence, that is the true self. Other places in the Bible use mind in reference to breath in addition to heart, but heart is always leb or a derivative. Here are some words used for mind in the Bible. They relate to breath, spirit, wind, and related symbolic imagery to illustrate how the heart and mind are talking about very much the same thing, but seem divided into different aspects that aren't the same. So we have nefesh, breathing, breath, heart, mind, life. So, you see, it's not clear-cut like people want to believe in, oh, it's the mind, and oh, the feelings are better than the mind, oh, the mind's a prison, the mind keeps you trapped, and blah, blah, blah. No, that's because you're a moron who doesn't know how to think, and then you devalue your capacities of consciousness known as mind and thinking, and then you become an unthinking moron. Yeah, New Agers, that's what you become. An unthinking moron who's led by their feel-good attachment. Yeah, you're going to find the truth that way. Boy, will you ever. Again, breath, breathing, the grace of God, aspiration, inspiration. If you want more information on that, you can look at presentation on Spectrum of Living, where I go into that, and as well the article Amazing Grace. Both of them are available in text and audio and video. The next word is Ruach, and that's wind, breath, air, mind, spirit. As you see, in the four elements, and I'll be going into this in my natural law presentation that will be upcoming, the top is not fire and the bottom water. No, the top is air and the bottom is earth. The air is the sun and the sky. That's where the light comes from the sky, and that's where the spirit is in the air. That's where the mind is in the consciousness. And then below the earth, well, you have no light reaching, you have no heat there. Everything's blind, it's cold, and it's dead. So that's the division of left and right, or good and evil, in terms of the left hand and the right hand. The right hand is the good part. We sow good things, and then the left hand is where we sow evil, and we're going to get back the consequences to our actions. And fire is the desire that fuels. So we start at fire, we go up to air, we go down to water, and then down to the earth, and then back up to fire. And that's, anyways, that'll be in future work. It'll be upcoming. The next word is peh. That's a blowing, speech, mind, word, sound. Again, things with talking, words we associate with mind. Then we have blowing, because from the mouth, air comes out. So again, breath, spirit, wind, air, mind. Peh, ruach, nefesh, leb. See how all these words are related? They all relate to consciousness. Consciousness, mind is more synonymous with consciousness. And that comes from above, the heart, the mind. Well, the heart is the desires, and that's lower than the mind in terms of the four elements there. You'll see later on in my work. Anyways, I'll just keep going rather than tangent on side topics. Left and right brain. So left brain and right brain, little picture here of some characteristic aspects that we associate with left brain or right brain. Left and right brain modalities of consciousness are expressed as bilateral symmetry in the brain organ due to the corresponding electrical activity that can be detected in more dominant regions of the brain, left or right, although the activity is throughout the brain when the load is shared in relative balance. So most brain activity is everywhere, even though some aspects may originate in more in specific areas such as emotions and the limbic brain, but it still goes out through the whole brain in processing. And there might be other dominant parts where certain aspects are more in one part than the other in some ways, but everything we do goes through the whole brain, unless you have some severe physical damage. But the dominant imbalances in my infographic at the top of the article that I will be discussing shortly in a few paragraphs. That is symbolic references of aspects of consciousness that are characterized in terms of dual aspects of ourselves, that they fit more within two specific categories, and we call that left and right, associated with the bilateral symmetry. Whether there are actual physiological or neurochemical, electrical signals that can detect an imbalance, that doesn't matter. All you need to do is listen to people express consciousness. You do not need to have all this technology. Again, my article on using senses and letting go of our dependence on technology for understanding reality. You're going to focus on the brain chemistry and the chemicals and the electrical signals. Well, how about you let go of getting focused in the trees and not seeing the forest, and you step back and you look at people's expressions of consciousness, and then you can clearly see imbalances represented in their consciousness. So I don't really care if it's actually in the brain physiology. I can see it in their consciousness. I don't need technology. I don't need a neural hat to scan where the impulses are going in the brain. I don't need a CAT scan to see any of that. All I need to do is look at people's expressions of consciousness. And yes, again, those expressions of consciousness might be related to brain damage and neurochemical issues in the actual organ of the brain. Alright. We can posit some correlations between attributes of consciousness, such as logic versus intuition, analytical versus creative, etc. But some people want to posit things incorrectly, mixing up the attributes with the classes, yet think they are making sense. Now this is people like Constantine Dracoslayer in the New Age BDS Facebook group, who wants to say he tried to posit that meditation, which is an aspect of a right brain modality, was more important than all left brain thinking. So that's taking an attribute of a class and claiming that it's more important than the whole other class that's played in this false dichotomy. So here, this person is demonstrating their own brain imbalance of not understanding how even the duality that needs to be united within aspects of consciousness is even constructed, because he wants to put certain attributes of the right brain modalities of consciousness, and he wants to play one particular attribute against the whole class of left brain capacities and say, oh well, meditation's more important than left brain thinking. That's because you're imbalanced and you have an attachment to meditation which is getting you nowhere. How is it getting you nowhere? Well, look at your consciousness and look at your expressions of understanding reality, and those of us who are at a higher level of understanding reality, well, we can see that you're at a very low level of understanding reality based on the bullshit you talk about. And based on, oh, where does your time and attention go? What's the quality of information you put out? You can tell someone's level of consciousness that way too. What they put out as information is where their time and attention is at, isn't it? Is it low-level things? Are you talking about people? Are you talking about events? Or are you talking about ideas that can change consciousness? Events happen all the time. Some people only focus on worldly affairs. Well, at a certain point, you need to let go of that attachment to all the problems in the world, and you need to go deeper. You need to understand things more deeply. So, yeah, you need to understand that there are problems, but how about you get into the metaphysical aspect of understanding how those problems are generated through causality, through our own actions, through our own aggregate collective karma of allowing it to happen, and creating our own self-inflicted suffering and self-imposed enslavement. To continue, if someone tries to match a particular attribute of one class, of one of the classes of brain modalities against the whole opposite class itself, you can immediately see they are engaging in a fallacy and are themselves in an imbalanced state of being, unable to see their error in thinking. Here is how we can structure the class and attributes. So left and right brain are the two classes, and then the attributes within left are, for example, logic, analytic, linear, objective, facts, mind. And then the right brain would be intuitive, creative, pattern, holistic, subjective, feelings, heart, etc. And then balancing the modalities of consciousness to discover, navigate, and understand reality with contemplation, reflection, pondering, true meditation, which is what contemplation, reflection, pondering is. Thinking is true meditation. Altered inner states is not true meditation, which is why I wrote this article, because I was doing work on meditation in etymology and in history and what it really means and how it's being misused. Again, manipulation through words to manipulate your understanding of reality and what's important. Make people feel good, and they will want it. Hence why meditation is so popular. Alright, to continue. To take the attribute from one side, say altered meditation of a specific kind you favor, and then raise importance above the entirety of the left brain class itself, is fallacious. Similarly, to compare the logic attribute to the whole brain, to the whole right brain modality, and concluding that it was superior to the whole class would make little sense as well. But nonetheless, left brain imbalanced people want to claim supremacy of a particular quality over the whole right brain modalities, and right brain imbalanced people want to claim supremacy of a particular quality over the whole left brain modalities. People who claim this have imbalanced mindsets that prevent them from perceiving reality accurately. They can't even perceive their own internal qualities accurately, and yet expect to be able to discern more complex matters in reality. So that's the joke. They can't even understand themselves properly and how things are properly ordered and structured within themselves, and how you can't play one quality, one attribute against the whole class. It just shows how lost they are in understanding themselves. So really, you're going to trust you're going to trust blindly that they understand reality? Well, instead of blindly trusting what they say, look at what they say and you can see that they're pretty foolish in their expressions. They don't understand very much. They're stuck in many traps, attachments, feel-good traps. There are aspects of consciousness that are engaged in an extreme manner beyond fluctuating minor imbalance, and represent a greater kind of imbalance in consciousness capacities and uses. These are heart and mind viruses that people have, enabling slavery actively or passively. So when you have extreme imbalances, they're viruses of the mind, so for left brain, or viruses of the heart for right brain, that enable slavery. Either you actively create slavery, which would be the left brain imbalances, or you passively allow slavery to exist and allow it to be created through the right brain imbalance. So left and right brain balance. Here is an infographic I made to express more accurate understanding of how the left brain and right brain balance and imbalance work. So left and right brain balance. We have on the left degrees of left brain imbalance, which are the extremes, and then on the right we have the extreme degrees of right brain imbalance. The degrees of left brain imbalance, and then the degrees of right brain imbalance, and more specifically, where you have the dotted green lines that separate, we have the two extremes of the right and left. So for the left is where you have master consciousness, where you're trying to be a dominator over others. And this involves the type of thinking, the type of imbalances that can lead to master dominator consciousness involve rigid skepticism, scientism, atheism, solipsism, moral relativism, social Darwinism, eugenics, authoritarian, and dominator is what you end up becoming. So Satanism is highly tied into this. Social Darwinism, eugenics, authoritarian, dominator, it's all about self-preservation, moral relativism, and moral relativism based on solipsism. And then slave consciousness is where you're naive, you have blind belief, religion mindset, also solipsism, unworthiness, self-loathing, order follower, willing slave, submissive. I find most people have both modalities. the New Ager that I lived with had both left and right brain severe imbalances. Scientism, in the terms of blind belief in evolution, he was adamant that it was proven. Solipsism, moral relativism, yeah, those were the ones he had. Oh, somewhat blind belief too. Believes whatever he wanted to. So we have, in the middle, we have the green thermometer type thing, I don't know, whatever. So that's the fluctuation zone that's a fluctuation within the zone of balance. So you have your extremes, and then you have, quote, balance. When you're out of those extremes, then you're in, quote, balance, because you're no longer in the extreme imbalances. But there still are states of imbalance and fluctuation between, there can still be states of imbalance, and there's certainly fluctuations between the left and right brain, but it doesn't mean that's a balance. There's a fluctuation. But the center of balance, that narrow area, is an ideal, but an unreachable permanently. We only pass in contact and fluctuation as we go between different modalities, such as we go from analytic thinking to synthetic thinking, linear thinking to holistic thinking. Go back and forth. Inductive, deductive logic is the same thing. You go back and forth. You're never really at the center. So balance doesn't exist purely because we're always going between modalities, so it always balances back in the middle as we pass back in fluctuation between each side, from side to side. So you can think of it as an infinity loop. You cross over the middle, then you come back, you loop over, then you come back to the middle. So the middle point in the infinity loop would be the center of balance, where you use your right brain capacities, then you switch over to left brain capacities, and they keep switching over. So you are balanced because you're using them both. So it is a balanced state. It's a zone of balance where you're using the aspects of consciousness of the right and left modalities effectively and together in order to understand yourself and reality properly. But it's not like, oh, you're balanced and now you're so evolved and you're always in the center. Well, what does that mean? You're using them both at the exact same time, both modalities of proper balance? So you're using logic and intuition at the same exact time? Well, no, you're not always in that state of balance. It's not possible. It's not like you're locked. You merge the two and you got a new brain and you're locked in that new brain. No, you still have the different left and right modalities of consciousness. It's just you're more able to use them. That is what the balance refers to, is that you're not in the extremes of the imbalances that lead to master-slave dichotomy, where you become a master or you become a submissive person who lets the masters and dominators take over. So it's always a fluctuation in between once you get out of those extremes. Once you let go of exemplifying and living those extremes in your life, then you can bring yourself to a proper balance whereby you use the left and right modalities of consciousness in a more even way, whereby you fluctuate between the two and you don't go into the extremes anymore. You stay within that green and you don't go to the extremes of the red or the blue. Consciousness is operating in this range degrees level of non-extreme imbalance, a fluctuating balance between poles. We can still have imbalances in the fluctuation zone as well, but they are not extreme. More impurities and imperfection in thought and emotion can be reduced, such as through alchemy, and become more balanced, but never pure perfect or balance, just better in degrees, towards balance in fuller capacities that you live, exemplify, embody, and actualize as consciousness modalities fluctuate according to the requirements we have in life. So it fluctuates according to the requirements. You're not always going to use, I don't know what's, I can only think of logic and analysis and synthesis, but there's different aspects, such as you're going to use language or non-verbal communication. It depends on the situation you're in. You're not always on the left brain or always on the right. There's different situations in life that require you to use different aspects. So you're not always going to be in imagination and creativity, but when you need to be, you can use it. Alright, so that's the explanation of that infographic. And here I have the last part is correcting some New Age bullshit there. So I call it Example of New Age Conceptions Drugging Consciousness with Metaphysical Spells. So, misuse of the terms mind control through words to infatuate you. So they misuse words, and then they make you feel good so that you buy into their beliefs, even though it's bullshit. I have heard a New Ager tell me that they were pure-hearted even though I had previously told them about veganism and the immorality of being a carnist. The truth did not matter. Mind did not matter. Thinking did not matter. Reason did not matter. Feelings and emotions matter most for these people. And this is the New Ager I lived with. I told him about veganism and posting stuff on Facebook, and then he comes to me. This is when we were arguing about evolution, and he tells me how he's pure-hearted, and I just started laughing. I laughed in his face. Because this is how people infatuate themselves. They self-delude themselves. You cast a spell on your own mind because you want to believe you're good and you're moral and you're perfect. You're pure-hearted. Oh yeah, you're so pure-hearted. Again, pure-hearted is not reachable, but to strive for pure-heartedness means to strive for perfection. But he's the guy who would tell me, oh, perfection's not possible. Because me, I was about improving myself and bettering myself. That's why I wanted to change. That's why I became vegan. But for him, bettering yourself, it was all, oh, I have to admit that I'm flawed. And for him, well, he said, well, I'm perfect. We're already perfect. My life's perfect already. My children are healthy. I have a job. And for him, it was all self-delusion. He didn't want to face himself in the mirror. Why? Because you infatuate yourself with fucking conceptions that are bullshit. And you believe whatever you want. So then you tell yourself, I'm pure-hearted, even though I murder animals. I pay others to murder animals, but hey, I'm pure-hearted. Because I can just believe whatever I want. As long as it makes me feel good, I will remain attached to that conception. That's why they don't think, they don't reason. The mind, thought, and reason is detrimental to them. They view it as flawed and limited because they don't know how to use the capacities. They've devolved and degenerated their own capacities of consciousness by buying into Wayne Dyer and other bullshit New Age crap that devalues these capacities. So then they stop using them in favor of, ooh, feelings. You gotta use your feelings. People are so confused, it's unbelievable. Then you try to unconfuse them, and then it's just running in circles all the time. Conversation after conversation, it just goes in circles, goes nowhere. Why? Because they don't even know how to think properly. They don't know logic, so they just go in circles and circles. Every time you try to talk to them, it goes nowhere. Like, okay, well, have fun in your circular thinking. You don't want to accept anything. Anytime any point is made, they just jump to something else to get you to ignore that aspect that they're wrong about, and they jump to something else to try to prove themselves right, because they don't want what actually is right. They don't want to face how they are wrong. They just want to be right. Not to actually be right because it's right. They just want to be right even if they're wrong. So that's why they jump from thing to thing, because they just want to, oh well, if I can jump from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 50 things, and eventually I'll get to something that this smartass who's disproving me on everything is eventually he's gonna fail, and then I'll have my one pivotal pillar of foundation that I can stand upon and say, ha! You can't disprove this, so therefore veganism is wrong, and carnism is right, and all, or whatever you want, or how evolution is right, and it's all proven and it's all scientific. Yeah, whatever. To continue. They feel good, therefore they feel moral, and therefore they are pure-hearted. Don't let the rational thinking mind interfere with your delusions. No, that would be too uncomfortable, and that would be bringing them down from their resonance of feeling good about themselves. The false resonance of their perceptions with falsity they accept as truth. That's where the resonance comes in. They resonate with falsity. Whenever truth comes in, oh, that doesn't resonate. Oh, that makes me feel bad. It doesn't resonate. You're bringing me down. So keep the heart fantasy alive, because it is a fantasy. All feeling and emotions with little development in the consciousness mind capacities and thinking capabilities to think critically and discern reality accurately. They have little understanding that their failure to develop their mind capacities is keeping them in bullshit fantasy land of self-delusions because they choose to feel good about themselves and their position in the universe rather than seek out, face, and accept the uncomfortable truth about how they are failing to live up to truth and morality. Here are some selective quotes from typical New Age stuff that is itself shared by people who also share Mark Passio's New Age bullshit material. They just don't seem to be connecting things they assimilate well and share contradictory information. So from an article I was reading, a bunch of pseudo-spiritual New Age crap. If heart is activated, one instantly gets illumination of mind because all compression and expansion of the whole universe in us was understood and locked. Incarnated being achieved a balance and emanates individual song from the still point, 0 point. Wow! Doesn't that make you feel special? What a bunch of bullshit. You're saying nothing. The heart is activated. You instantly get illumination of the mind because the compression and the expansion of the whole universe is understood in your heart, and then it's locked in. And then your incarnated being achieves a balance and emanates individual song. Get the songs from the still point, the 0 point. Talking about bullshit. More 0 point pseudo-philosophy, and if your heart is activated, you instantly get mind illumination. No. This is not what happens when you just tell yourself you are living from the heart, pure-hearted, heart-activated, and all these other phrases to describe beliefs about our self-concept and how heart-something we are. That is all they are. Beliefs. They don't automatically activate your mind, whatever that means. Even if you view heart here as what it should be, true care, it does not automatically activate your mind and these other conceptions. This is metaphysical drugging, love bomb style, with pseudo-spiritual buzzword combinations like 0 point, balance, understood, illumination, activated, etc., talking about the universe and songs, making a connection with all that to make you feel good about yourself and your position in the universe, your worldview, self-image, and identity itself. These beliefs become attachments because of the conceptual structures they build inside our perceptual reality. They become a basis for our identity in our attempt to make sense of the universe and our place in it. So another quote. However, many people today die from heart attacks. This happens because they cannot reach the balance in inner kingdom of duality, and eventually one part, whether it is a Venus or Mars, defeats the other. So he's saying because people don't activate their hearts and all this shit, they have heart attacks because of this pseudo-spiritual nonsense. Yeah, ignore all the medical research, ignore the harm of the animal products do. Just activate your heart with meditation as is required, and then all will be great, okay? You won't have any heart attacks that way. So another quote here from this idiocy. I strongly believe that this work perfectly captures inner searching which occurs in all of our lives, but it only can be noticed by philosopher, by soul which seeks truth and peace in stillness meditation in one's heart. Notice how they mix in meditation with a philosopher who seeks truth in one's heart. They also make peace and stillness essential focus, more buzzwords to infatuate you metaphysically in the spells of the mind. Because peace and stillness, that's part of the inner feel-good altered meditation, to get peace and stillness. Everything I have come to see from big meditation pushers has shown me the opposite is true about their self-professed claims of how great meditation is and how far it has brought them, while failing to see how it has greatly impeded their ability to see reality and themselves more honestly through a lack of higher-order thought processing capabilities. Meditation is required for the heart development, they say, and must be used for spirituality, they say. But they fail to develop the mind in ways that really matter, in the ways of discerning truth, morality, towards ending evil for good. They are allowing themselves to be controlled by one modality of consciousness, blind to reality as it is, because they are living in low thought mode, low thinking mode, low questioning mode, low critical thinking mode. This obsession with the heart whatever, self-image, that has no substance and true care of morality in their actions, or the obsession with altered meditation, is keeping them from developing the mind in ways that really matter and evolving consciousness truly. Their mental capacities have been corrupted at the... I'm going to reread that. Is keeping them from developing the mind in ways that really matter and evolving consciousness truly in real true intelligence and psychological maturity. If they do question and think, their mental capacities have been corrupted at the foundational core level with these false beliefs that have them projecting their imbalanced modality as the only method to activate the heart and so-called spirituality, and be so-called spiritual. And I think this is the last quote from that stupid article. Meditation is eternal and is occurring each second within us and every one of us. So that's true. Real meditation, not altered meditation, peace and stillness and this crap. Because meditation is middle at ion, middling all particles in middle balance, points of stillness and illumination. This is what philosophers do. Oh, clearly he's taking Mark Passio's the middle at ion stuff and using that. But again, so the first sentence, that's accurate because we do it all the time. Meditation, true meditation, thinking, contemplating. Well, and not that you do it all the time, but you have the capacity to do it all the time. And middle at ion, well, whatever. This guy just loves the green language, creative, buzzword, inner standing, and 0 point. Just a bunch of bullshit words. Again, pseudo-spiritual buzzwords to infatuate you metaphysically. Meditation, middling of particles into balance, point, stillness, illumination, philosophers. Boy, I want to get his program onto his program and become a philosopher like him. Yeah, don't you? Doesn't it make you feel good, all these words? Yeah. I do agree that true meditation, the act of thinking, is occurring at all times in varying degrees. So most people don't use deep thinking, contemplation, true meditation. But it's still thinking is a part of our daily lives, so in a way meditation is a part of our daily lives. I have spoken about this delusional focus before of the false blind balance axiom in people's lives, the false blind application of middle way philosophies. Why do they mix meditation, middle way, stillness, illumination, 0 point, philosopher together in this misconceived hodgepodge? They are trying to present a pseudo-spiritual idea and get you to buy into it because of how wonderful, fantastic, and good it sounds and possibly makes you feel. The feel-good love bomb infatuation takes hold and lets the idea slip into acceptance in the mind without proper thinking, without critical analysis. The real heart is symbolized by true care for truth and morality, seeking to understand it and then living it and then teaching it to others. You don't need to do the passive navel feel-good sensation meditation to do that, even if they claim that even if they claim that actually works to develop a real true care for morality. I see most meditator pushers fail in this regard. As I have said, the people I know who push this have failed to develop themselves in greater harmony and unity with truth and morality by actually living it in their lives. Attachments hold them back. They need to develop the conscious awareness in consciousness, in mind more, and less of the unconscious dream state of meditation as they understand it and use it, or other dreamy fantasy conceptions to make people feel good. Big meditation pushers, or New Agers in general who may not even meditate, that I have come across lack aspects of true care. They lack the aspect of true care that can get them to embrace the truth and morality of reality, or lack thereof. When confronted with a fact of reality that contradicts their established beliefs, they don't care for truth enough to embrace it, or investigate it and then embrace it. They just deny it in order to maintain their false self-images and worldviews. This first group can't even face truth. Then other meditation users or New Agers I have met can face the truth and honesty, but they aren't ready yet to change. They are waiting for something imaginary, and they seem to take a long time, if ever, to become ready to change. They lack the true care to live and embody the truth and morality in their lives. They think meditation is more important than actualizing truth and morality in their lives. They can't do that hard work on truth and morality, but they can keep meditating. That's easy to hold on to and keep doing, because it's part of the pleasure trap feel-good attachment crutch. What is the common factor in these individuals that prevent them from developing greater care to seek, embrace, and accept truth? What is the common factor in those that can accept the truth, but don't have enough care to motivate them to the courage and willpower to actualize and live more in truth and morality? For some, the common factor is meditation. You're stuck in feel-good, subjective, multiverse realities, and it's preventing you from seeking the depth of truth and morality that you can objectively discover through your mind, through contemplation and reflection. The attachment that keeps them from progressing forward, that's meditation. They think that meditation is largely where it's at, and so they will keep doing that rather than consciously develop the deadened capacities in them that can bring them to realize the truth and morality in their lives. They need to actually develop the heart center, empathy, compassion, conscience, and morality that comes with greater, wider, true care, agape. This material was developed as I was working on material to explain how others and myself view meditation, which should be forthcoming. And that's the next article I'll be doing an audio on, maybe. It's long, I don't really want to do the audio, so I'll have to think about it. But that's the end of this article on mind and heart and left and right brain, and how these symbolize aspects of our consciousness. They're not actual organs, and it's not literally the left and right brain, it's symbolic. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a nice day. Take care. Peace.